welcome back to our talk about algebraic expressions. This time I want to talk about equivalent expressions and some properties that allow us to get equivalent expressions. Now if you're saying, what is an equivalent expression? Well, it really means it's an expression that has the same value. So the answer doesn't change. It's just written in a different way. It's like you're still the same person, but you change your clothes every day. And so it's just, you're equivalent to yourself. Same idea here. The two properties we're going to focus on first are the commutative property and the associative property. So commutative, what word do you hear in there? Okay, so if you're saying things like community, I don't know what else, hopefully somewhere in your brain you said commute. You hear the word commute, which means you move somewhere, right? Well, that's what we're going to do with these problems. And it works for addition and multiplication. So when we move things around, all it means is we change the order of things for whatever reason. It might be easier to solve. It allows us to regroup some things, which can be helpful later on. So in this one, x plus 2, the equivalent expression is to flip-flop the order and have 2 plus x. Or for multiplication, 5 times 8. The equivalent expression is 8 times 5. Now you're looking down here going, well, that's a minus sign. How do I do that? Well, remember when we subtracted, did subtraction, or we worked with negative numbers? And I said, what do you do with subtraction? You change it into adding the opposite. So this now becomes y plus, first term stays the same, subtraction becomes addition, and the opposite, what's the opposite of positive 7? Negative 7. Hey, look at that. We now have an addition problem. Now we can use the commutative property. We can flip-flop the terms. Negative 7 plus y. So that's the commutative property. Then we have the associative property down here. Once again, works with when you have just all addition or all multiplication. Now realize if we can change subtraction into addition, we can also technically change division into multiplication. Usually involves multiplying by a fraction or something like that. We're not getting into that right now because we don't need to, but just know that it's there, and when the time comes, we'll talk more about that. So what do you notice is different between the associative property and the commutative property? Hopefully you're saying, well, I see parentheses this time. Right, because the associative property talks about what are we grouping together, or what are you associating together. So what we're going to do here is we're going to move parentheses. We're not going to change the order of the terms. We're just going to group things differently. So x plus 2 in parentheses plus 6, now I'm going to move the parentheses over, and I'm going to say it's x plus parentheses 2 plus 6. Or down here, I'm going to move the parentheses over from being around 7 plus 4 to being around 4 plus 2. It may just be easier to do that work first. Yeah, that's largely why we use the associative property. But notice in each of these, the order of the terms did not change. X is first, 2 is second, 6 is third. 7 is first, 4 is second, and 2 is third. And then we can also do it for multiplication. I'm going to move my parentheses from being around A and B to being around B and C. And all it does is change up what we do for order of operations. So you're going to practice identifying that a little bit and writing out what that is on the note sheet / worksheet. And then we'll come back in the next video and talk about the distributive property.